The biggest news in the presidential race today came from someone who was not in the 2016 presidential race and now insists emphatically, dramatically, he never will be. House Speaker Paul Ryan held a surprise press conference on Capitol Hill to address the rampant speculation that he might, possibly, maybe, just maybe, be a potential white knight riding to the rescue should the Republican convention in Cleveland this summer be terminally disastrously deadlocked. Ryan's resounding message today, not going to happen.
I want to put this to rest once and for all. As you know, I have stayed out of this race, and I have remained neutral. As chairman of the Republican convention, my job is to ensure that there is integrity in the process, that the rules are followed by the rule book. That means it is not my job to tell delegates what they should do. But I've got a message to relay today. We have too much work to do in the House to allow this speculation to swirl or to have my motivations questioned. So let me be clear. I do not want, nor will I accept the nomination for our party. So let me speak directly to the delegates on this. If no candidate has a majority on the first ballot, I believe that you should only choose from a person who has actually participated in the primary. Count me out. I simply believe that if you want to be the nominee for our party, to be the president, you should actually run for it. I chose not to do this. Therefore, I should not be considered, period, end of story.
All right, so we're going to be covering this Ryan story from a lot of different angles tonight, maybe every angle. We're going to start with the biggest question. Mark, does this truly, really, actually close the door on Sir Paul Ryan and his trusty white steed?
It closes it a lot, but not completely. You know, Team Ryan was very frustrated that people like us, including us, speculated that he would be the premium white knight. And if you think about other possibilities, I still believe that if the convention's deadlocked and if the three guys currently running, none of them can get a majority any which way, that Ryan still makes more sense. I happen to know he'll be at the convention. But this makes it a lot harder because he has now said as a principled matter, it should be someone who's run in this race. Either the three guys running or other people who entered. I think it makes it much, 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 much less likely that he would be turned to, but I don't think it ends it because he still makes logical sense to unify the party.
I think it comes pretty close to closing the door fully for just this one reason. Not because I have any great faith in Paul Ryan or like that he wouldn't change his mind, but in the end, the task of the white knight, if he is nominated as a white knight, is to somehow get those Trump voters, those disaffected Trump voters, to come back and vote for him or her in the fall election, right? They will be mad to begin with, but now they will be angry and not only see this person as illegitimate, that white knight, but would see him as being a total hypocrite who lied to the country and then capitulated or whatever ended up going around their back. I think it would make he's set itself up now so that it makes it almost impossible for him to do what he would need to do as the nominee.
And of course, it also has always been harder because he's presiding over the convention and he's close to the chairman of the party, so it would look even worse. So probably it's over. All right, Ryan's no, therefore, can be seen as a sobering reality check for Republicans who don't like the three current options. Many of them have most likely already started fantasizing after Ryan's afternoon press conference about who else the white knight could be, or at least maybe an off-white knight. Here is our mosaic of potential Republicans. It's more speculative than reportorial. It's a result of crowdsourcing, aggregation, and our own conjecture. You'll recognize a lot of those faces up there. John, where does Ryan's decision to shut the door leave the white knight dreamers in search of somebody to be there if the three current candidates deadlock?
I believe the phrase is grasping at straws. You know, we have a lot of esteemed Republicans and military people up here on this wall. None of them are really plausible in any really kind of serious way. You need, ideally, you'd have somebody who'd run for national office before, and the people up there who run for national office, George Herbert Walker Bush, Dick Cheney, those people are not going to be the white knight. So I don't see a lot of options up there.
You see the knights of no.
I see the knights who say no, correct, yeah.
It's hard. I mean, Ryan made so much sense. Somebody like Mitch Daniels, maybe. The problem is, again, Trump will have minimum third ballot. I'd say minimum, even if he collapses, 500 delegates?
Yeah.
And you're going to need those 500 delegates to be happy and the people they represent. So it's got to be somebody who is aligned with Trump on a lot of issues. And frankly, most people of stature in the Republican Party
are not.
They're not.
They're even close.
They're for free trade. Many of them are for a different kind of policy on immigration.
And foreign policy and a whole variety of different things. A totally different tone and temperament to politics. I just came back to experience, though. You got to have all these. None of these guys have been vetted at a national level, except for the ones who are like the former president.
I know we're over time, but I just say the fact of Ryan's decision and the symbolism means a lot of Republicans are going to give up dreaming about a white knight, and they're going to say Kasich, Cruz, Trump. Pick them.
Best news in the world today for Ted Cruz and John Kasich.
Yeah.
All right, now for what we're calling Ryan's rule, kind of what I alluded to a second ago. That's Ryan's argument that at least when it comes to conventions, only candidates who are or were in the race should be considered for the Republican nomination. So, Mark, the question I have for you, again, leading back from directly to our previous topic, will Ryan's rule prevail now?
I think for a lot of people it will, but that'd be an attitudinal thing. Mathematically, if it's not Trump on the first ballot, Trump on the second ballot, Cruz on the second ballot or Cruz on the third ballot, then you're in a deadlock situation. And I'm amazed at how little speculation there is about a Trump-Cruz ticket. Even though there've been obviously animosity between Donald Trump and the man he calls Lion Ted, the easiest way to break the deadlock, easiest way to break the deadlock is to say that's the ticket. And I think increasingly, unless John Kasich can really move up, and we'll talk later today about an important speech he gave today, unless he can really move up, the simplest thing, unless Cruz or Trump prevail in the first three ballots, is to just team up. And that means it is going to just be people who are in play. The symbolism of what happened just makes it very hard if Ryan won't do it, Ryan won't bless it, very hard for anybody else to come in.
I think there's right. I agree with everything you just said. I think that the reality is Donald Trump's either going to get to 1237, or I think there's going to be a mad dash to cut a deal. And the deals could go a variety of ways. Cruz could try to cut a deal with Kasich to put him over the top if no one's at 1237. Trump could try to cut a deal with either one of those two guys. Kasich might have enough delegates to put Trump over the top. And, we just heard Trump, talking about potentially putting Kasich on the ticket.
The other thing to keep in mind about Ryan's notion of someone else who ran but isn't still in the race. Sometimes people run and leave the race with glory, like Joe Biden.
No one's done that.
No one did that.
No one. No one in this party.
What's his name? Governor of Wisconsin.
Scott Walker?
Scott Walker left after 70 days. Jeb Bush, disaster. Marco Rubio, disaster. Rick Perry, disaster. None of them left on an upswing. It's these three guys.
And the only one who sort of actually might have qualified is Chris Christie, who's an endorser now of Donald Trump, which wouldn't really work.
Yep. Yeah. Finally, after all this, Paul Ryan still, of course, now will serve as chairman of the Republican Party convention in Cleveland this summer. And he still has, as he talked about today, his big plans for presenting a vision to the country from his perch as Speaker of the House from now until Election Day, no matter who the Republicans nominate. So, John, can Paul Ryan effectively play those two roles, as he said today he wishes to do?
Key word in there was effectively. He can play those roles. I think he'll try to play those roles, but I don't think he'll very effectively play them, because what we know about presidential politics is that presidential politics is going to blot out the sun. The legislative branch is going to go into abeyance, and that's going to include Paul Ryan.
The only way I think he can do it, and this is something Paul Ryan is capable of, if he is super specific about a set of policies and the nominee is not. The problem is, once he's super specific, he's going to have to tilt one way or the other, left or right or center. Right. And I think it's going to, if he was super specific, it would only serve to divide the party and probably give the Democrats a big opening.
Well, that's what I mean. He could be it if he wanted to be a shadow party running in opposition to Donald Trump as nominee. Maybe we might end up there, but that's the only way. And that's not effective. That's effective in a certain sense, not effective in terms of setting the course of the Republican Party. That's serving as like a loyal internal opposition within the opposition.
Yeah, what's he going to Is he going to propose comprehensive immigration reform? Is he going to propose entitlement reform?
All the things
budget cuts?
Directly against the platform of the nominee.
Yeah, problem.